Hey guys, today we're going to unravel the so-called electric car bubble, or what they're also calling the electric car crisis. Is the electric bubble about to burst? What's more, could hybrid cars be the smartest choice right now? Grab your coffee and settle in because we're going to clarify all these points in today's video. Before continuing, remember to subscribe to the channel and like the video to stay updated. Your likes and subscriptions contribute to the growth of the project, and with the project growing, I can bring you more interesting videos. Agreed? Thanks for the support by continuing. They're already nailing the death of electric cars right now, but weren't they the future? So it looks like they're facing some very serious troubles. A lot of people have been saying that problems are arising, that the market is resisting, but I'm going to show you with facts what's really going on. Let's go. We are facing a complex situation in China, the United States, and Germany. I'll elaborate on this to make you understand that it's not just my imagination. We have some terrifying data. In less developed countries like Brazil, the electric car market is still in its infancy. If this is the situation in developed countries with a mature market, just imagine what could happen in Brazil, Argentina, and other countries where this technology is just beginning. A large market analysis firm conducted a highly detailed study and found that electric cars are beginning to lose traction worldwide. People's interest is dropping, and this is a global phenomenon. Even China, an electric car consumption and manufacturing giant, is seeing a decline in sales. What's happening in China is that people are favoring hybrid cars over electric ones. One reason for this is the difficulty in finding charging stations. You buy the car, but when it's time to recharge, it's a nightmare. Everything's crowded, huge lines, and not only in China, but in the United States too. In California, there are YouTube videos showing gigantic lines to recharge the car. And if you don't stand in that line, you can't recharge the car and can't get home. This differs from combustion cars, which are very quick to fuel. Another complicated aspect is the used car market. Electric cars are depreciating faster than combustion cars. People are wary of battery problems and afraid of buying a used one that may no longer be under warranty. Batteries often cost more than the car itself. There are more modern batteries that can be swapped out, but depending on the car model, the cost of changing it can be quite high. Additionally, battery technology is progressing very quickly. Anyone who bought an electric car in 2020, for example, today already has outdated technology. A 4-year-old car that should be considered new could be outdated because of the battery. This results in significant loss when selling because people will think that the battery is already old, that the technology is outdated, and that the cost to replace it will be high. So the resale of electric cars is quite complicated. The first owner doesn't suffer as much because while the car is under warranty, any problem is solved. But when it comes to selling, the depreciation is much greater than that of combustion cars. And the next owner can have a lot of headaches, especially with the battery, which can cost more than the car. In short, electric cars with 3 to 4 years of use, especially those from 2020 to 2024, can be seen as outdated in terms of battery technology. This is a point that is greatly complicating the situation. Another point that has been drawing a lot of attention is how electric cars behave on a daily basis, as users include these vehicles in their routine. The fuel savings are great. The car responds quickly because of the instant torque, it's super modern, and the maintenance is lower, at least in theory. I'll comment more on that in a bit. Speaking of drawbacks, in the United States, for instance, there was a very intense cold spell recently. Chicago, which is notorious for its cold, hit temperatures as low as negative 30 Celsius. And this is where the issue with electric cars lies. Extreme temperatures, whether overly cold or hot, aren't friendly to batteries. We're seeing vehicle range decrease and charging time significantly increase. Many owners of Tesla and other electric car brands are complaining because they end up being stranded in situations like this. Let me share some practical examples. Black cab drivers have reported a significant drop in autonomy. They see on the dashboard that there are 60 kilometers of autonomy left. They drive 5 kilometers and suddenly the battery dies. It indicates that it has no more charge. Then the driver is stuck, needs to call a recharge tow vehicle, and when they get there, what should take 40-50 minutes on a fast charger ends up taking about 5 hours. These are real-life situations, and that's because the battery doesn't work properly in intense cold. It's tricky to have a car that can fail you like that, especially in places with strict governments. You could even die because with a car without a battery, the heat won't work. Just consider the danger. But of course, globally speaking, not all countries have extreme heat and cold temperatures, but many parts of the world do. So this issue is very important, and if someone has an experience like this with an electric car, they may never want to have one again. Now, shifting gears a bit, there was a news story that got a lot of coverage about Hertz, a car rental company in the United States. They have bought 20,000 electric cars in the past 2 years, many of them being Teslas. And now they've announced that they're going to sell these vehicles less than 2 years after buying them. The reasons why? Decreased customer demand and high maintenance costs. The role of a creator is to make content for people. It's recording, editing, posting, and monetizing. Oh, life can be tough, you know. You might think, but aren't electric cars known for being cheaper to maintain with no oil, connecting rods, coolant, and overall less weight? Yes, it's true. But Hertz argues any minor damage is very expensive to repair, particularly if it's battery related. They said the maintenance of electric cars is coming out double the price of combustion cars. And since we are talking about a rental company, they really understand maintenance costs. They weigh every detail to see if it's worth it or not, but apparently the numbers are not favoring the electric ones, and there's more. Hertz is going to replace those 20,000 electric cars with combustion vehicles. But the problem doesn't stop there. When Hertz decided to sell these electric cars, they had to deeply drop the prices. It was quite the sale. Just to give you an idea, a new Tesla Model 3 costs around $43,000, but Hertz even sold some for $18,000. This represents a devaluation of more than 50% in less than 2 years. This is a clear example of the challenges we are seeing in the market. But that's not all. Automakers are starting to reduce production of electric cars. China is going full steam ahead, bringing new models to Brazil. But in the United States, for example, Ford is facing a significant crisis. The famous F-150 pickup trucks, which have always been very popular and beloved by Americans, are stuck at dealerships. Ford invested heavily in the production of these vehicles, hoping for a great success, but now it is having to slash prices drastically, in some cases by as much as $80,000, and they still aren't selling. A lot of people think that Americans are buying electric cars in droves, but that varies quite a bit. In California, for instance, the consumption is pretty significant, about 20% of the market, but the situation across the rest of the United States is quite different. The adoption of electric cars in the American market is low, largely because Americans enjoy taking long road trips and electric vehicles still face issues with charging infrastructure. In the United States, the situation is tough, which will resonate in countries where the technology hasn't even really taken root yet. Given the cuts in the United States, is it worthwhile to invest to expand in other countries? Ford is even planning to reduce its workforce. About 1,700 workers will be affected by the cutback in production of the F-150 electric line and the electric line in general. They are reassigning these workers to other production lines, mainly those for combustion cars. This is because despite the narrative that the future is electric, everything hinges on the public's acceptance. There were plans, like in California, to ban combustion cars by 2030, but that's likely to change. The truth is, the global energy mix doesn't support a full transition to electric cars, neither from a practical nor ecological perspective. GM is also facing challenges selling its electric cars, having to scale back on some of its plans. In Germany, for instance, December 2023 saw a drop of 50% in electric car sales and 75% in hybrids. This highlights the importance of government incentives. In the United States, depending on the state, a Tesla can have up to $7,000 in incentives, making the purchase quite appealing. But when these incentives are removed, the situation changes. A combustion car can be priced at $20,000, whereas an electric car without an incentive can reach up to $50,000. Thus, it's obvious that the transition to electric is not as simple as it seems, and the sales data reflect this when government incentives are cut. It's notable that Germany, despite being a small country with abundant charging stations and excellent electrical infrastructure, is also experiencing a decline in electric car sales. And this gets us wondering what the situation is like in Brazil. In Brazil, there is a growing demand for electric cars, but it's still quite modest compared to the global scene and to countries that already have a stronger presence of electric and hybrid vehicles. Hybrid cars are nothing new, with brands like Toyota offering hybrid models for almost 20 years, which work very well and represent an interesting middle ground. For Brazil, the hybrid car still seems to be an excellent option, despite having more complex mechanics due to the integration of the two systems and issues such as battery durability and resale, which can be a little more complicated compared to combustion cars, but not as much as the electric ones. The electric car caters very well to certain situations, especially in urban use. However, for longer trips in Brazil, the infrastructure is still very limited. Between Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, for example, you can plan and make a trip, but going to more distant places like the Northeast can be a challenge. There are already reports of people being stranded due to a lack of charging points available across the country. By looking at the North American and European markets, we can foresee a little of what may happen in Brazil regarding the devaluation of electric cars that we'll see in the next 5 years. The public that buys electric and hybrid cars is still very small in Brazil, and these vehicles are usually more expensive and technological, offering a smooth experience for the first owner who has the warranty. But what's next? How will this vehicle depreciate over time? An interesting solution would be for companies to offer some kind of extra warranty for used cars. For instance, if you purchase a second-hand electric car, the manufacturer could provide an extra warranty or a battery service for a reasonable price, thus ensuring a longer lifespan for the vehicle. It's also important to note that electric cars aren't as environmentally friendly as they seem, given the high cost of battery production and the use of heavy metals. We need innovation in battery manufacturing to make them more sustainable. Furthermore, the current energy infrastructure doesn't support a full transition to electric cars. We need to consider hybrid and combustion vehicles, which have become more efficient, and realize that a mix of different types of vehicles is crucial. And what about you? What's your take on this? Do you have an electric car? Would you like to have one? Do you prefer combustion? Drop your thoughts and questions in the comments. I'd love to discuss the video's topics. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. There are suggestions for the next videos popping up now. It makes complete sense for you to watch them. See you in the next video. Take care.